Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Scott Luton and the one and only Jake Barr here with you on Supply Chain Now. Welcome to today's live stream. Jake, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. I am really excited to get into this one today.
I am too. We got a lot of good stuff to get into here today. Folks, it's The Buzz, where every Monday at 12 noon Eastern Time, we discuss a variety of news and developments across global supply chain and business. Jake, we got some really good stuff to get into today. We're going to be talking about the U.S. manufacturing industry. It continues to lose a little bit of steam. We've got a focus on what supply chain leaders should look for throughout the rest of the year. We've got a keeping it real challenge from the John Wayne of global supply chain right here. Yours truly, Jake Barr. And we've got a big guest joining us here in just a few minutes. Luis Ramon, Vice President of Johnson Johnson MedTech Supply Chain, is joining us live in just a couple minutes. Jake, I think you've rubbed elbows with Luis and his team. They're doing some big things,
Another global leader. They are just one of the top end companies that you could ever hope to look at and benchmark against.
I love that. We got a lot to get into there with Luis. So, folks, buckle up and get ready. Now, a couple of things before we get going here today. Two things, Jake, right? We're going to issue a challenge to the audience. First off, hey, give us your take in the comments, whether you're tuned in via LinkedIn, YouTube, X, Facebook, Twitch, whatever the heck that is. I'm still figuring it out. No matter what, let us know what you think, right? And secondly, if you enjoy the show today, we'd love for you to share it with a friend and your network. They'll be glad you did. Jake, it's good to accumulate market intelligence, accumulate best practices, accumulate what leaders are thinking, and then share it with folks so that they're better off too, huh?
It's the only way you can really get ahead. I mean, you have to understand, you have your vision focused on the problems in front of you every single day, but to get better, you have to look outside.
That's right. Got to outside the proverbial four walls, whether it's one facility or if you got 300 around the globe, you got to get outside the outside perspective. Okay, so Jake, the timer has started. We got about, I think, 6 minutes or so before Luis joins us, right? So we got a lot to go through before that happens. Are you ready? You buckled in?
Let's
Did you have your
unpack
Wheaties?
it. Let's go.
Did you have your Wheaties today, Jake?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, you're gonna need it. Let's start with this. Let's start with that said. So a lot of folks out there, we're approaching. Let's see here, 25,323 subscribers. So first off, thank you to all of you folks out there that have tuned in to our almost weekly newsletter. Appreciate all the feedback we get from all our friends and community members around the globe. This edition, Jake, it's chock full. It's about about 5 feet long. You ever read a valuable newsletter? It's about 5 feet long, Jake.
It is, but it's pithy.
It's pithy. So we talk about inflation battles abroad. We talk about how the Olympics impact sports product revenue cycles. You'll learn something there, I promise you. The struggles continue at Intel. One of our co-hosts had a very frank take on that, so you have to check it out. Now, one item that we shared in this newsletter, Jake, a survey of workers using AI shows that almost half say they have no idea how to achieve productivity goals leveraging AI, that the goals that their companies expect. So, Jake, really quick, weigh in on that. If we're going to give, if we're going to give
The
our
blind
team
leading
members,
the blind.
that's right.
Unfortunately, that is just an unacceptable answer. Even if you're at the very beginning of your journey, even if you haven't unpacked anything to do around how to think about embedding AI across all the operation, you can use AI to greatly facilitate and simplify front end, leading edge, customer facing operations in a heartbeat. So whether it's in item lookup, question queuing, understanding the current situation around where you are and responding to clients or a patient or a customer's needs around queuing and understanding the status of the supply chain. It's an excellent first step of how to be able to get into it. And that's even before you embed it into the bigger, more difficult problem solving.
That's right. Well said. Very eloquent there, Jake. Now, Jake, it sounds like you're hard at work constructing a better supply chain here today. Is that right? Hey, the show must go on no matter what Mondays bring us. Hey, really quick, folks. One other quick blurb. You'll see that that truck is carrying trust in the corner. We started with a big theme of trust and how we got to have more real trust, not just in our global supply chains, but across global business. So you have to tune in to see how we tied that in with a past guest who also shared eloquent advice and practical advice on how important that is. So, folks, check it out. We dropped the link to With That Said right there in the comments. You're one click away, and we welcome your feedback there as well. Jake, also to mention, folks, With That Said, we always mention live programming, resources, tools, all with the objective of helping you navigate your week more effectively. It's so important. So, Jake, resources abound. I'm going to share one more quick resource, and I bet you'll have a comment or two. We'll see. So, folks, you got to check out this resource from our friends at Omnia Partners. It's a free guide that will help you create a strategic roadmap and, equally as important, outcomes as it relates to utilizing the spend data in your organization. Free guide from our friends at CFO Dive, Supply Chain Dive, and Omnia Partners, and the link is right there in the comments. So spend visibility, Jake. It's not good enough just to have it, is it? We got to do something with it. Your quick thoughts.
Understanding where you spend money is it's table stakes in a poker game. It is so 20 years ago. You have to have that plus the ability to take apart what you're spending it on, the frequency, the outages, and how to think about spend, much like our guest today, in more of an end-to-end perspective. Because if you think you've captured the data around what you spend, you're kidding yourself. The majority of your spend is actually across the ecosystem. And when you bring all that together, that's when you really unlock opportunity.
Massive opportunity. And hey, it's dangerous to be fooling yourself. We've talked about that, Jake, numerous times. And you mentioned our guest. It's a perfect segue here. And Tom Cat on Twitch, I see you. Great to have you here. Let us know what you think as we get through the conversation. So, wonderful guest here today on The Buzz, Jake. So let me introduce our esteemed guest. Throughout his career at Johnson Johnson, over 20 years there, our guest has held positions of increasing responsibility within supply chain across various functions in manufacturing, engineering, new product introduction, strategy, development and deployment, and distribution and logistics. Now, in some of his free time, our guest enjoys giving forward and supporting organizations such as, now, this is a mouthful, but this is a good mouthful, the Seton Hall University Transformative Leadership in Disruptive Times Program Advisory Board. They're doing big things there at Seton Hall. Also, the Pace Center for Girls and a variety of other industry associations. Let's welcome in Luis Ramon, Vice President of Johnson Johnson MedTech Supply Chain. Hey, Luis, how you doing?
How are you, Scott? Hello, Jake.
We are doing wonderful. Now, before I get started, Luis, that is quite a title for your work at Seton Hall, but you are having big impact there. So you just stay busy. You got a couple clones, maybe, Luis? Is that what it is?
It's time management, but staying busy for the right reasons.
Ooh, Jake, I love that. Staying busy for the right reasons. I think we all subscribe to that, Jake, huh?
Leaders lead.
Leaders lead. Okay, well, we're going to dive in. First, we got a lot to get to here today with Luis. We're going to start with this, though. So, Luis, we've done our homework. We might have been spying on you here in the last few weeks, but you have a big passion, we hear, for all things outdoors, but especially sports, and in particular, baseball and football, the American football version, right? You're a big Yankees fan in baseball, of course, New York Yankees, and the Miami Dolphins, which have been on the move. So I got to ask you this, Luis. What's one of your favorite football or baseball memories from your journey?
Probably from a baseball perspective, I would say, Scott, is one of my favorite memories that I've had was having the opportunity to, number one, be at a World Series, but be at a World Series clinching game with my Yankees. That was a great opportunity to be there and see that live. So that would probably be the top of my list in terms of my journey within sports, and obviously be playing the sport, but also being a significantly big fan across the board.
So I just hope that Luis being a Yankees fan, because they really put a hurting on my Braves in the 90s. I hope that wasn't 1996 when the Braves took a 2-0 lead and y'all came storming back at 1-6. It wasn't that World Series, was it, Luis?
That was actually one of them, yes.
Oh, a shot in the heart.
Through the heart, Luis. There are extra points today for that one.
Extra points. Well, hey, I love the departure that sports give us. It's so welcome, right? No matter what season. I'll tell you, the Olympics right now, it is fascinating, all the stories playing out there. All right. So, Jake, I got to ask you, though, because a lot of folks may not know you played basketball at Kentucky, but you played a lot of baseball in your background. So when it comes to the wonderful game of baseball that all three of us love, what's one of your favorite baseball memories?
Scotty, as a child, it was all about the statistics, the probabilities, the figuring out as you know, it's a game of situational decision making. So it's perfect for someone who's crazy and wants to go into supply chain. It's got so many striking parallels to it.
You're so right. And also, outside of those parallels, it's so interesting, Luis and Jake, how the game and how we manage the game and how we determine performance, how that's evolved so much. Folks, if you love baseball and you hadn't seen the movie or read the book about Moneyball, do yourself a favor, go check it out.
And if you haven't been to the Field of Dreams, go.
Even better.
It is a life-altering experience.
Oh, we'll have to check that out. Outstanding. Okay, so Luis and Jake, appreciate your comments there and your perspective there. We'll see how this current baseball season plays out. So let's shift gears and talk about. Jake gave us a great segue in talking about the parallels between supply chain and baseball. We'll have to do a show about that. But let's start with this. Luis, share some perspective, if you would, on how Johnson Johnson MedTech leverages an end-to-end approach to supply chain management, and equally as important, what are some of the critical outcomes that this approach has delivered thus far?
That's a great question, Scott. First, from a Johnson & Johnson perspective, we embarked on a transformative journey in 2023 that refocused our efforts on pharmaceuticals and medical technology. And this unique approach as a two-sector company really equipped us to confront, I would say, the most daunting health challenges through innovation and technology, ultimately impacting health for humanity. Our response to patients' needs and strengthening of supply chain resilience really led us to restructure our global value chain. And this sectorized strategy, where innovative medicine and our medtech businesses assume end-to-end accountability for their supply chains, has already shown its worth. It has accelerated growth in both businesses and really enhanced our ability to manage in diverse product portfolios. And as we continue this journey, we're creating simpler, faster, and more efficient organizations in medtech by leveraging a stronger end-to-end approach. And for us, it's yielded significant benefits, I would say, and we really believe the tremendous opportunity to impact the future of healthcare for both patients and unlocking these businesses' true, I would say, focus areas across regions and the globe is triggered through that end-to-end accountability and bringing decisions closer to where the customers are and ultimately to where we operate. I would say this end-to-end model promotes and accelerates the needed focus, capabilities, and collaboration to better address the unique set of challenges that we're facing within our business units and on a global basis. And they tend to vary regionally. So for us, being able to deliver, I would say, an unparalleled innovation for our customers now and in the future is our number one priority. So we've empowered these business units and regions with more end-to-end accountability while centralizing standardization where it's critical and where it enables us to really improve the overall competitiveness of who we are and better deliver to our patients.
Okay, Jake, we could make like a webinar series 3 months long and dive into a lot of what Luis just shared. But I want to pull out just a couple quick things to get your comment. Transforming to create simpler, faster, and more efficient teams and structure and organizations, making decision-making, get it to the hands of the folks that are making decisions right there that impact patient care and patient outcomes. And the other thing the other thing he mentioned beyond those patient outcomes, he kind of implied, which I think is so important. My mom was in healthcare for over 30 years, a certified diabetes expert, right? And freeing up their time and enabling them to see more and do more and be more successful. Our healthcare system needs that. That's how we're going to reach so many more patients and drive so much more innovative and powerful outcomes. And I love what a lot of what Luis is doing and his team is doing from a supply chain perspective is empowering that. But Jake, what'd you hear there?
Oh, you can unpack it for days, but fundamentally, the ability to deliver both scale and agility at the same time by looking at the problem differently than in the past, right? Thinking not just within the four walls, but how do I connect the ecosystem to deliver a more patient-centric outcome? As Luis knows, look, across the countries and the geographies and getting to the patient, the solution sets are different. It's not a one-size-fit-all for even how you unpack how to deliver the touch of the last mile, right, to bring that in, let alone the ability to think about the packaging that's required, etc., right? So you really have to have both flexibility in how you deal with both the supply base and the response base to be able to do that. But the better digitized you are upstream allows you to take and use the data to make better decisions, as opposed to data latency in the past where you had to wait.
Luis, I think you might want to respond to that, right? I saw your eyes twinkle, Luis, as Jake was finishing his thought there.
Yeah, no. I think Jake hits multiple levers when I think of just the customer centricity around that end-to-end accountability and how you structure as you go forward is definitely going to be the key to success. I think keeping the customer in the middle, in the center of what you do as you develop these end-to-end solutions for the businesses you serve is definitely the recipe for success.
Yep. Well said, Luis. On the front end, when we were talking about with that said, and we were leading with trust, we really referenced one of my favorite guests in recent memory, Regine Villet, who is a supply chain leader at Ochsner Health down in New Orleans. And she did some innovative, fascinating things as we were getting through the pandemic to change how healthcare and healthcare supply chain happened. And, a lot of what she shared, especially with patient centricity, is so critical. Then now moving forward, because healthcare, we've got a lot of heavy lifting to do, especially as we move ahead in the next few months and years to come. Okay, let's shift gears here, though. Luis, we have limited time with you as you've got some travel coming up. I want you to, if you would, you referenced leaning on technology and innovation. What are a couple of your favorite examples as to how modern technology, be it robotics or AI, or you name it, are being applied to transform healthcare supply chains and, of course, including patient care?
Yeah, no, definitely the word transformation is the correct words there, Scott, to use. I'll probably start with two customer-facing examples that are very prevalent across our businesses. First, the first one would be predicting demand and doing that in a more accurate fashion. For example, our digitally integrated advanced case management uses machine learning algorithms to predict demand more accurately for knee, hip, and other sort of implants when they're going to be used and where, and making sure that they're stocked so when they're needed, they're available. That's one. The second customer-facing one would be really how we anticipate service and repair needs for robotic solutions. Utilizing our machine learning regression techniques and integrating customer data, we can forecast future service and repair based on the population of, for example, our Velis robotic assisted solution robots. So for us, that enables us to predict how many components are needed and properly service the surgical robots appropriately. So those are two customer-facing examples, but internally is where we've continued to really take this to the next level within for example, our orthopedic supply chain network. It's really vast and a complex operation that for us, we try to drive a competitive advantage and growth by ensuring that we're integrating technology in an efficient manner. And so we're doing that by tracking our manufacturing performance, really to stay ahead of issues or potential trends that we may be seeing. So our manufacturing process has the potential to generate vast amounts of data So knowing where to focus on, how we're going to attack inefficiencies and variations across the network, we're using it there. And also our digital performance management, which is really taking these real-time flows from the manufacturing floor and feeding them directly into real time, into analytical hubs that guide you on where to focus on and how to do that, and making sure that we're strategic on where we do that. That for us, it really gives you a real time, detailed understanding of manufacturing performance, how you're addressing it, and ensuring that you're centric around the customer side of what we're trying to deliver.
Oh, Luis, I love the real-time factor, but I want to move upstream to something you shared earlier in your response. And Jake, help me out. I can't remember what musical act sung the song Anticipation, but sorry to drop a tune on you, but that's a big theme. That's a big theme, it sounds like, of what Luis was sharing, anticipating what's going to happen so we can be better prepared and more resilient as we get into addressing demand or plenty of other disruptions.
But Scott, you take another ear, though, to what Luis just gave you, because it isn't just anticipation in an old world sense. It's actually using advanced data techniques to interrogate to interrogate and understand what's going on, and then using it for the predictive capability, right? Of what and how many units they need in the surgical unit, right? And what the schedule is, and importantly, time, being able, I think he undersold. I think you've done dramatically incredible work on being able to bring information about the pieces that are being used in the surgeries and the hip and the knee replacements, etc., and tying it all the way back to the performance of how they're producing the units in the factory.
Jake, I couldn't agree with you more. And Luis, you shared quite a response. Leave it to me to pick just one thing out when Jake's got his eye on about 18 things there. And by the way, folks, Tomcat's helping me out. I wish he could have fixed my off-key tune, but that was Carly Simon. Thank you there, Tomcat, that sang the song Anticipation. That might have not been a title, but anyway, good stuff there, Luis. A lot of good stuff. Let's shift gears up. We've got a really interesting read. Now, this is back from April, right? This is back from April. But I think it's really interesting and shed some light on some of the cool things you are doing, some of the gains you are making when it comes to not just sustainability, but building out a heightened ecosystem with your suppliers. So one of Johnson Johnson goals is to have 100% of its electricity from renewable sources by 2025. Now, at least back in April, again, a few months back, when this article was released, you were already at 65%. Man, there's lip service, and then there's what you are doing, Luis, where you're getting real outcomes and going after those goals. Of course, this is from our friends at Supply Chain Digital. Now, when it comes to establishing power and emission reduction targets, Johnson Johnson is aiming for 80% of its suppliers to have science-based targets by 2028. Of course, that rolls up into helping the company towards its goal of net zero emissions across its value chain, Luis, by 2045. One more thing to help make all that happen. One initiative that was launched back in 2021 was the Johnson Johnson Supplier Sustainability Program, which offers a wide variety of resources and opportunities. And the aim is to have all suppliers actively participating in that program by 2025. A lot going on here. There's a bigger story to tell. But Luis, if you would speak to the strides you're making when it comes to sustainability, including one of my favorite parts, that critical need for investing into the ecosystem and developing more mutually successful relationships with your suppliers. Your thoughts, Luis?
Yeah, great subject. I'm personally particularly proud of the goals across J&J to include sourcing 100% of its electricity from renewable sources by 2025, reducing emissions by 44% by 2030, and striving, like you mentioned, for net zero emissions across its value chain by 2045. I think it directly ties to our commitment for health for humanity and our environmental, social, and governance priorities. I think you see this being, I would say, lived day in, day out across our business units. I'm proud of commitments, just some examples, across our Ethicon surgery business campus in Cincinnati, Ohio, where we have a closed loop geothermal system that's been installed with the capacity to provide heating and cooling to the entire 45-acre campus while substantially reducing emissions. And there's also some really great examples that I'd love to share that are tied to reducing greenhouse gas emissions. That's already a reality at MedTech in Brazil within our hospitals. From now on until going forward, we're going to be delivering 100% electric car deliveries to certain hospitals in the region, which is a big stride for us. And we've continued to seeing hospitals sort of line up to sign up for this type of sort of commitment to the environment. And also, I would say around 30% of hospital waste comes from operating rooms, from ORs. The waste is treated as regulated medical waste. It costs more for hospitals to remove it, and it's sent to incineration of landfills. Several years ago, we started a partnership program with hospitals and other third-party organizations, including some government agencies and waste management companies, to collect, disassemble, and then recycle plastic and metal components from single-use medical devices in hospitals. The program is now active in approximately 150 hospitals across 11 countries, including Europe and New Zealand, and it's continuing to grow. Each program is sort of different because we work with regional regulatory frameworks to initiate it. And to date, we've estimated that over 78,000 medical devices have been recycled in Europe alone through this program. So our teams are continuing to hear from hospitals about wanting to partner with us on this work. And it's just incredible, the strides that we continue to make. And probably the last more recent example that I have was in June. Our J&J MedTech Brazil was present at So Brazil, which is the Congress for Brazilian Society of Minimally Invasive and Robotic Surgery. And we were there with an innovative, sustainable booth model, which was built with reusable materials. Most of the inputs used at the booth are going to be reused in other scientific congresses where J&J MedTech will be present through the year. So it's these larger programs with the smaller stride that we continue to live in to our commitments with environment and the sustainability across the board.
Luis, as much as I love the real outcomes and results you're getting, I love even more the passion for which you tell the story, because that's how we get more folks bought in and we make more progress, right? That force multiplier effect. Jake, we heard a lot there. And of course, he hit on a couple of areas around the globe that I know you've been to. You had some great stories in your previous appearances.
Lived there.
What'd you hear there, Jake?
You know, the piece that I love about what Luis offered up is you've got to take into account no one forces you to actually go out and work with your partners. You do that because of your passion to do what's right? And to extend the ecosystem and involve, again, the hospital, the supplier, etc. You know, I've got dozens of companies that we work with that literally are taking small steps doing the same thing. They're taking their own people, taking them into the supplier space, helping teach the supplier how to actually be more sustainable in their processes, actually working with them, as Luis outlined. Wait a minute, doing a partnership with the hospital around electrical capacity, really? Right? So you can do that. There is no line where you cannot cross in this space where you can't be doing something for the collective good. And I just applaud them because the work that they're doing, and I've got firsthand view because I lived in Cincinnati. I knew the Ethicon team quite well. They just do fabulous stuff.
Setting standards, challenging the rest of the industry to catch up. I love it. And I said that, Luis. I guess I can say that. It's not what you want to say, but I can say that out there. You're spiking the football like those Miami Dolphins as you score 70 points a game with that passing offense. Goodness gracious. I want to pull one thing out, though. You shared lots of data, but 78,000 medical devices in Europe alone that is going to be able to be reused, baking that circularity into our ecosystems and getting real gains like that and then taking them to what's next, the next level. Big, right? On so many levels, including that landfill diversion that we need so much more, right? there's a reason the re-economy continues to get bigger and bigger every year, and global supply chains can certainly take advantage of it. Okay. Really quick, we only got a couple more minutes with Luis Ramon with Johnson Johnson MedTech supply chain. Karak Jose, the one and only, has joined us in the comments talking about AI and what it can do in healthcare. I'm going to pull one nugget out here. AI and healthcare tech potentially can save the U.S. economy up to $150 billion annually, enhancing diagnostic accuracy by up to 90%. Karak, we're going to have you on to talk healthcare soon, healthcare and AI. All right, one quick question, Luis, before we make sure folks know how to connect with you. If you had one quick piece of advice, and this deserves a full show, but for the time we've got, our audience members, most of them out there across the globe are supply chain pros trying to better manage change, navigate disruption, making it happen for their customers, taking care of their team, helping out their suppliers, you name it. What's one piece of advice or encouragement that you'd offer them?
Yeah, I think first, for 15 years, I would say J&J has had a strong risk management framework that we've put in place to identify, pursue, and really mitigate our supply chain vulnerabilities. And that's happening both at a site level and a product level, and it served us well. However, I feel that in the world today, it's more volatile than ever with geopolitical tensions, natural disasters, climate change, cybersecurity threats, et cetera. I think the risk and supply chain disruption is no longer one-dimensional or a one-time event, but rather a series of things happening together. And really, to address the shifts, we need to continue to evolve. Within J&J, we've evolved from our legacy manual approach to a more digitized capability to sort of mitigate and identify and address some of the multidimensional risk. So almost, I would say 3 years ago, we began this transformation. And in 2023, we accelerated the deployment of really scaling that end-to-end visibility across the portfolio. So for me, continuing to evolve that digital and dynamic resilience and quantifying these risks has really had the impact in serving the customers the way we wanted to. And for us, continuing on that journey is probably the single biggest piece of advice that big companies, small companies, everyone just start the journey and understand the steps that we're going to take. Some will start with dashboards, some will start with understanding what the risks are and starting to segment them, because they hit different industries sort of differently because we're all in different competitive environments. So for us, we've really taken a keen focus on continuing to evolve that. And I would say if I were to give one piece of advice to sustain the business and to continue to be resilient in what we're doing, I think that dimension of risk management and working towards that is probably the single most, I would say, important first step you can take.
Love that. I'm going to get Jake, go ahead. Quick response there.
Hey, Luis, playing out probabilities of scenarios and how they might happen pays off, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Jake. Absolutely.
Evolve.
It pays off for our customers more than anything else. And just, again, having that level of resilience to navigate disruption and mitigate risk and doing it in a customer-centric manner, that's what we're about.
Love it. Folks, you got to evolve or you ain't going to like what's going to happen. I'll put it in nice terms there. Luis, a lot of good stuff here. All right, so folks can catch you as you keynote at ASCM Connect North America in Austin, Texas in September. Keep it weird. All my dear friends in Austin love that mantra. And Next Gen Supply Chain Conference in Chicago in October. Man, you're staying on the move. So beyond that, how can folks connect with you, Luis?
Easiest way to connect is through LinkedIn. So just look up Luis Ramon, Johnson Johnson, and we'll go from there.
It's just that easy. Well, big thanks to Luis Ramon, Vice President of Johnson Johnson MedTech Supply Chain, for joining us here today. Luis, safe travels, and we got to have you come back. We're going to talk more about the New York Yankees, Atlanta Braves, and the Cincinnati Reds soon. Okay.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Safe travels.
Just in time for the World Series, Luis.
All right, good stuff. Just in time for the World Series. I love it. Hey, and Tomcat, we got to add the Pittsburgh Pirates to the discussion. We sure will, Tomcat. I love Pirates have gotten a little more competitive in recent years. We hope that continues. I can't remember that name of that pitcher, that rookie that's just blowing it away this year, Jake. He's on the Bucks rotation. I can't
The
remember his
young
name.
LSU phenom.
Yes. Yes.
Steen.
Man, it's incredible. All right, folks. You can Luis asked you to connect with him on LinkedIn if you'd like to learn more. We're dropping his LinkedIn profile right there, making it easy. Jonathan is also a big Yankees fan. Tuning in today via LinkedIn. Great to see you, Jonathan. Let us know where you're tuned in from. Hey, Asher, fantastic discussion. Thanks for sharing so many great learnings. Asher says, hey, thanks for being here. A couple folks from our friends in the Twitch community, Jake. All right. So, Jake, Luis brought it today. Before we get into, we're going to be talking manufacturing here in a second, and then we're going to switch gears to some things that supply chain leaders got to keep their eyes on. But if you had to pick one thing, Jake, out of all that Luis shared, all the improvement they're driving, disruption that they're tackling, the patients' lives that they're changing and enabling healthcare providers to do more for there, what's one thing you'd pick out from what Luis shared and make sure our audience heard that same thing as well?
They're not asking for permission. They're going and doing it. That's the big thing. You get so many people that are frozen in time because they won't unbundle and unpack and say, we need to do some things with our suppliers. We need to do some things with our touch points, with our channel partners, the hospitals, the care providers, right? And they just get frozen instead of saying, we can run many experiments. We're going to learn from all of them, incorporate, and keep progressing and keep improving. And that, to me, is the essence of a leader, right? The lack of fear to actually go and move forward.
Love it. Love it. Be bold, be fearless, go out there and do it. Don't ask for permission. Tomcat says, hey, I like your attitude, Jake. Just do it. I think I've heard that a time or two for sure. All right. So, Jake, we got some more work to get to today. We're going to be walking through, let's see, a couple news stories that folks need to be aware of. We're going to get a Keep It Real challenge from Jake Barr here before we wrap here today. So let's start with talking about one of my favorite sectors of the global economy. That's manufacturing. Now, unfortunately, for the manufacturing industry, malaise is here, at least in the U.S., and it seemingly continues. Now, last week, the Institute for Supply Management's July PMI numbers came out, as reported here by Supply Chain Dive. The number came in at 46.8%, which is about 1.7 percentage points down from June numbers. Now, folks, remember, for context, for the ISM PMI, a number over 50 tends to show manufacturing expansion, right? That's an important piece of context. A number below 50 tends to point to contraction. New orders, employment, and production was also down month over month. Now, unfortunately, our hearts go out to these folks. Layoffs have been announced recently for a wide variety of manufacturers, such as John Deere, GE Appliances, Mercury Marine, and others. Now, some point to a couple big factors, right? And there's a longer list than this, but two factors here. The U.S. interest rate uncertainty, right? The Federal Reserve chose last week not to make a cut. We're going to touch more on that in a minute. And of course, Jake, the gift that keeps on giving, whether you like it or not, and a lot of folks don't like it, that's the U.S. presidential election creating more uncertainty and hesitation for manufacturing leaders out there. Jake, I'd love to get your thoughts.
Look, I didn't get these white and gray hairs just from sitting around, right? It's going through the cycles of these situations. So there's no question that we're seeing a slowdown. Let's put that in perspective, though. How many months of expansion did we have, right? So, yes, there's some tension. I personally believe the fiscal nature is also at a core, as you mentioned. So I believe if the rate cut had occurred, then we probably would have seen. So we've got hesitancy, right? And by the way, Scott, to go back, take a look at our historical numbers. The hesitancy occurs in any election curve, okay? So I hate to say it. We all get a little tighter with our pocketbooks when we're thinking, what's coming next?
That's right.
It doesn't matter what political party. It happens, right? That shit happens, right? So I personally look at it and I go, hey, actually, it is slightly off and it's down. But I also am a student of the game around statistics. One data point does not make a trend. So I'd
Right.
like to see a few more additional data points before I go over the deep end and say, oh, woe is me.
That's right. No, I'm with you, Jake. And that's an important couching statement to make, folks. Don't rush out to your board and do anything because of the ISM PMI. It's just one metric that we happen to look at regularly. But to Jake's point, you got to roll it up and look at a whole bunch more data to get the full picture, especially as you look to plot your
And
course
Scott,
for
I'm
your
going to tell you
organization.
another thing that I've had the experience of seeing over my careers is, guess what? If you get into a malaise spot, a downward spot, now is the time to actually accelerate your investments into retooling and transformation. Leaders lead, they don't pause. They use opportunities aggressively instead of pulling back and saying, no, 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 we're retrenching.
It's an excellent comment. And, the talent market, there's a lot of wonderfully talented people that unfortunately have been separated from their organization. Some of those I mentioned, there's lots of others. Hey, now's the time you can really capitalize on that talent and bring it in, and that could help power your next wave of expansion and growth and innovation. So good point there, Jake. Now Tomcat's already throwing out, Tomcat's on it today, Jake. Tomcat's already throwing out a prediction saying the correction is coming next month after the cut. Now we're going to touch on that. Tomcat, there's a lot of folks that probably feel the same way you do. So let's switch over, Jake. Let's get to this next article.
Industry doesn't correct itself in 1 month, unfortunately. So there'll be a lag. But
that's right.
I like Tomcat's thought.
You like his optimism, sure. All right, so let's talk about this article from our friends at the Food Institute. They come with this list of 5 supply chain concerns to watch in late 2024. Now, it's important to note this is not all inclusive. It's a couple things we're going to be talking about. We'll get Jake to respond. But how many of y'all can relate to this wonderful person in the image here that have an Excedrin headache about right now? And you may have some more as we get through the rest of the months here. Let's walk through some of these. The 5 they listed: geopolitical instability, consumer behavior, transportation, logistics, trade policies, and severe weather. I'm going to share a couple comments and we'll get Jake's comments as well. So back on the geopolitical instability, man, a lot of folks are holding their breath on what's going to happen next when it comes to the Middle East, right? And will it break out into a broader conflict? It's already bad enough. So we'll see this week. In fact, maybe the next 24 hours, hopefully cooler heads can prevail. Consumer behavior. Continued global inflation and overall economic concerns impact consumer spending for sure. Jake, I don't know about you, but my dollars aren't going any further than they used to, right? Now, speaking of the economy, we touched on interest rates a moment ago, right? Many central banks across the globe have already begun cutting rates. Not all, though. The Bank of Japan, however, for example, raised their interest rates to the highest they've been in 15 years. Now, what's the Fed going to do in September? And as a lot of folks are asking, have they already waited too long? A couple of the quick comments. Transportation, logistics. Folks, we're all keeping an eye on the Gulf and East Coast ports and labor contract that's supposedly being negotiated. I don't know about y'all. I wish there's more discussions going on than there actually are between USMX and ILA. We'll see how that goes on.
Hey,
trade policy.
Scott, welcome.
Jake.
Welcome to a normal day in supply chain leadership.
That's right.
We're talking about these 5 things as things to only watch in the next coming month. Are you out of your mind?
Year round.
This is year round. This is the everyday reality. This is our life from this point forward. So if you're thinking that they're unusual, couple of things, oh gosh, we have to wait, have to look out for them in the next 3 months. Are you crazy? This is stuff that we have to do every day. We have to think if it's not the Middle East, it's something in Latin America. If it's not something in Latin America, it's something in Southeast Asia. It's the China situation. It's Russia. It's Ukraine. It's every day.
Every day.
If you're not doing advanced supply chain scenario planning, what if analysis, if you're not strengthening your, like we said a little earlier with our J&J friends, if you're not looking at your ecosystem, critical partners differently than you have in the past, you're out of your freaking mind.
Well, and adding one more that you're at least implying there. So you and I had a great webinar not too long ago, dynamic supply chain design, right? The opportunities are profound to be able to do that in modern, innovative ways. And you have to, and maybe we can drop a link to that webinar in the chat still, because it's still available on demand. That was a great, healthy discussion. One more, severe weather. Quick comment, all the folks out there that are being impacted with Hurricane Debbie, especially the torrential rain that's bringing, our thoughts and prayers are with you. And one other mention, and Catherine and Amanda, appreciate what you do behind the scenes. I meant to add a little note here. If we can drop the link to the nonprofit Allen Aid organization, they're a nonprofit group that helps companies leverage their supply chains to go in and help out in disaster areas. Kathy Fulton does great work there. If we can drop the link to that organization, I want to say it's allenaid.org, but if we could drop that out in case folks want to support what they do. All right, so Jake, I loved your point a minute ago, right? This is year round. This isn't last months of 2024 or any year. It's year round. Welcome to the world of supply chain. Your thoughts, Jake, on any of those topics or others?
Look, it's a collection of these things. Look, you're going to always have macroeconomic trends, because if you do business on any kind of scale, you're across more than one currency, more than one country of operation. You got the geopolitical risk. There's no question, the climate change affecting how you source, what you source, when you source it. So structuring all that, I think the glue that makes all this work is you have to continually be thinking about, how do I transform the organization's capabilities on a people side? We can talk all we want about the incorporation of AI. For the next several years, AI is going to be the greatest assistant we ever could have put our arms around. Okay, it's going to allow us to access massive quantities of data faster, ingest it, evaluate it, help us look at a lens of a problem in a different way to make a better, more educated decision, right? It's not going to be capable of making all the decisions for us at this point, but it's going to help us along the road. So when you take all those, it's impossible to just separate one out and say, hey, that's the one we should focus on.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for being a part of the buzz here today. A little quick aside, we hit a little technology snag, and we're not going to be able to get to the keeping it real challenge from the one and only Jake Barr that I had promised on the front end, right? We're keep it transparent around here. That happens to us from time to time, right? Murphy's Law is alive and well. But nevertheless, thank you for being a part of the buzz. What a great episode here today, right? Really appreciate our guest, Luis Roman, Vice President of Johnson Johnson MedTech Supply Chain. Gosh, what an outstanding segment that was. Big thanks to all the comments and questions we got. No, we didn't hit all of them here today on the buzz, but appreciate you being a part of today's conversation. Hey, big thanks to Jake Barr, the John Wayne of Supply Chain. I loved his perspective here today. Been there, done that perspective for sure. Stay tuned for more episodes featuring my dear friend Jake Barr. Big thanks to Amanda and Catherine behind the scenes, helping to make production happen. Folks, appreciate you being a part of our journey here today. Thanks for being here. But here's a challenge, though. You know how we do it around here. Take one thing. Luis and Jake shared a ton of actionable insights and perspective here today. Take one thing, put it into practice. Your team is ready to change how business is done. They're looking for real leadership, right? Leadership that doesn't take permission to do just that, right? Driving change and performance and resiliency and improvement, all to take care of our customers, our patients, our suppliers, our whole ecosystem better, right? So on behalf of the entire team here at Supply Chain Now, Scott Luton challenging you, hey, do good, give forward, be the change that's needed, and we'll see you next time right back here at Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.